I haven't thought about having a drink in over 10 years. You know, like I haven't had a drink in 13 years now. It doesn't really ever enter my head. Like that's something which I put to bed a long time ago. And day by day, I'm very grateful that I don't drink anymore. You know, so it doesn't really ever really enter my head, the thought of picking up a drink. But something about the mind-altering state of drugs, which still triggers me and makes me feel, because it's so instant. It's like, you know, so like, and it puts me on edge, you know, and I can't be around it or can't be around anyone that's on them. You know, I kind of find that really too hard, you know, so I haven't worked enough on that to be able to be around it, you know, but I don't think I need to be, you know, I don't need to be in a room with people taking cocaine, you know, I don't need to do that. So like, and I think that's completely reasonable, you know, whereas drink is part of our culture and it's just part of what everyday normal people do, you know, which is fine, you know, it doesn't really bother me, but yeah, so I don't really have a problem with people drinking, you know, I go to parties and bars and things occasionally. I don't have a great time, but I go, you know.
You talked about how you're speaking more with Emma about what happened previously and ways in which you can sort of navigate the future together. Is she worried about the tour coming up? Has she articulated any concerns to you? Obviously, we're a few months away now.
Yeah, she has. You know, she, you know, understandably, that has been a moment of relapse for me again and again and again. You know, so there's always, and our life is really great. You know, it's like, why would you put yourself in a dangerous situation? Which a lot of people say to me, Matt, why do you put yourself in a dangerous situation? And it's because I love it, you know, and I really do, you know, and I feel passionate about it, and I am capable of doing that, clean and sober. I am, you know, and I'm gonna work as hard as I possibly can to show everybody that I am capable of doing that, clean and sober, and not picking up, you know. And Emma understandably worries about that, you know. But I think she can see the work that I put in. You know, she can see where I am, see how open I am with everything, and you know, like I'm the first person to tell her anything, you know. So and she sometimes like, oh God, you don't have to, you know. But I'm sorry, you know. So it's just in me, I think, you know. So it's she can see that, and I think she's worrying less, you know. But my family are going to be on loads of the tour. They're going to come on loads of it.
Oh, excellent.
You know, so they're going to come most weekends. They'll be meeting up with me wherever I am. I mean, it's quite a long tour. We've got 27 dates. So I think we're gone for about 7 weeks. But then I'll be meeting up with them whenever I can. And me and Emma are doing great stuff at the moment. And it's just I'm with her as much as I can, and I'm happy when I'm there. You know, so I think that's going to carry on.
You seem in a really good place at the moment.
Yeah.
Would you say that's a?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think we kind of we understand each other more than ever. You know, and it's like it's weird. It's like in a relationship, like I always felt kind of lucky to be there. Do you know what I mean? Like I still do, you know, I still feel very grateful, very lucky to be in that relationship. Don't get me wrong, but I always felt like I was hanging on for dear life, you know, like for so many years, and like kind of, whereas now it's a two-way partnership, and it's like I support her, she supports me, and we both get it done. You know, it's like, that's kind of the way it feels now. And the kids are the number one priority in our life, you know, so that kind of takes over with everything else. I feel very different to that guy who did all that stuff, you know, like when I say that stuff, like the guy who acted the way I acted in active addiction and kind of that kind of Matt, I feel very different to that person. But that life is very enticing for that guy. You know, and I think I'm talking about myself in the third person, which is very strange. But it does worry me, you know, because I'm very easily like led and swayed, you know. But I have been beyond strong in what I will and will not do, you know, and what I'm willing to take and what I'm not willing to take, you know. And I have very strict boundaries around me, and I felt really awkward kind of doing that at the beginning and going, look, I need this and I need that, and I can't do this, I can't do that. And I was met with complete love, you know, which was the most incredible thing. I was like, absolutely anything you need, we'll do anything you want, you know, because at the end of the day, it's like, it's a weird relationship in a band because you're not brothers, you're not friends, you're not colleagues, you're some combination of the three.
I can imagine.
It's a really weird relationship, you know, but at the root of it, there is love, you know, and it's weird to talk about that with the other two boys because I'm sure they wouldn't mention the same words as I would. But there is, you know, and there's a love for each other, and we want each other to be happy. And if that means not doing it, if that makes the person happy, then that's okay. But if we are going to do it, we have to make sure that, I have to make sure that I'm safe and I'm okay, and I have certain parameters that I have to meet every day, you know, and they were more than accommodating. And we've got people we work with now, like we got a new management team, which was a big thing. And it's actually we're back with the management who first started the band with.
Oh, right.
So like, who knew us when we were 16 years old, you know, so it's like, but these guys, and they're like, it's all right, we know who you are. You know, and we've always known this about you, Matt. You know, like we're going to make sure you're looked after and you're kind of, you know, so it's really, it feels much more easy. And also I will not allow myself to just disappear, you know, which has happened in the past. You know, like I've gone in the band has taken hold of me and I've kind of let go of everything I had that kept me rooted, you know, whereas I don't do that anymore. I kind of keep myself as grounded as possible in who I am, and I'm not, and I don't lose that. Do you know what I mean?
What were you like when you were unrooted?
Well, I kind of, the thing is, it's really hard because sometimes the band has to take priority, right? And that is, and everyone feels that, like it's like we press the busted button and everything becomes all hands on deck. Everything's about live, sleep, breathe, busted, you know, and it's like, and that has to happen because we have to put something that we're proud of and we feel is good enough for the level that we're at, you know, and that takes a lot of work. But I sometimes forget about everything else and all I think about is that band, you know, like, and it becomes
it's tunnel vision,
absolute tunnel vision, and it becomes the ultimate priority. It's just, is this that, and that loses me, you know. I kind of lose myself in that mess, you know, and so I have these things that I do on a daily basis, which keep me clean, sober, and feeling good about myself, and so I will not let them go, you know. So I kind of I keep them, and there's certain rules. We don't have drugs in the dressing room, little things like that, you know, because that was a bad idea for me, you know. And like, I don't care.
It's a really key rule.
It's a key rule for a drug addict. It's a very good idea not to have drugs around you, you know. So that's that, which is fine, you know. The boys are completely cool with that, and all our crew and everyone we work with are completely know the rules, and that's fine, you know.
Do you know, I really admire your honesty when you talk about how that lifestyle is intoxicating. Do you know what I mean? How you can get sort of swept away with it.
Yeah, because it is me. That's the thing. Like, it isn't like, because I've kind of felt like it was like, I've talked about in the past as being Matt from Busted, and that's kind of a role that I played, a mask that I put on. And that's true. Like I did find myself becoming this caricature of myself because it fitted in with that world, and I felt comfortable when I was that guy in that world. There's no blame in my story for anybody, but there is. I see other very young artists and acts in the music industry, and I just hope that people are there, kind of looking out for them. You know, a few people spring to mind right now, and I'm just like, is someone there? You know, can I go? You know, because you know, it's very easy to kind of go, oh, poor pop star, you know, how, you know, but it's such a weird environment, such a strange life change. I don't think anyone can really understand until they've experienced it, what happens, because you're suddenly if you're in a everyday life, you know, you're suddenly transported into something which is completely different, and you no longer can relate to anybody you have related with in your entire life. You know, like you can no longer, your life doesn't relate to your parents' life. Your life doesn't relate to your friends at home's life. Your life doesn't relate to the people you love, you know, and it's, and so in some ways I always felt either show-offy if I talked about anything, or that I would just be completely misunderstood. What are you talking about? It's amazing. Keep going. That kind of thing. So it's a really hard thing to understand. And I think that's why a lot of people go off the rails when they hit a certain age, where they've been in that kind of world for a few years, because it's, you have no one to really relate to or to talk to about what you're going through. And there's a lot of people earning a lot of money from you, so no one wants to let you get off the train, which is
very, very problematic, isn't it?
Very problematic, because there's like, we're going to deal with that, but in 8 months' time, because you've got a tour and you've got an album release and you've got this. I know this is going on right now, but just nip it in the bud, because we'll deal with that. But by the time that 8 months is gone, you've got another tour and another thing, and there's already things arranged. We had diaries for 3 years in advance, so it's kind of like, it's a very weird thing to go, when is the right time to help, and I think the right time is from the beginning, to kind of always have someone who they can talk to, who they can open up with, who can kind of help them,
Did you have anyone to talk to? Your bandmates? Did you talk to them about how you were feeling, or did you keep that?
I kept that to myself. I never really talked to them about anything. I never really talked to anybody, really. I kind of just kept everything to myself, which was not the right move. But I didn't want to rock the boat as well. I was struggling for so many years, but I kind of didn't want to ever let on, because I didn't want anyone to think I wasn't
coping,
and for it to be taken away, because I knew how important it was and how important it was for everybody, and I kind of felt this pressure to kind of keep a face on and kind of, however, like if you talk to anybody who was around in those days, I was the last one to bed, first one on the bus. I was always like really kind of trying to prove that I was okay, when I was the one who was falling to pieces. But on the front, I was like, yep, great, be there, like everything. But then panicking and filled with anxiety and fear, so it's a
lot to take on board when you're that age.
Yeah. And especially when you don't understand anything, and you'd never talked about your feelings or understood anything about mental health or any kind of aspect of that, and I always think of it as like people used to say, like, giving up drinking, and the thought of that being like, that was what used to bother me, giving up. I was like, I don't give up, I want to fight, when actually it's not giving up, it's giving in, it's surrendering. It's going, I am struggling and I surrender, and I give in. I can't do this anymore. I need some help. And that is the most empowering thing you can do. And you will find that people will support you, and people will love you, and people will really stand by you with those decisions. Once you give in that facade, once you give in that the fight till the death with something that is going to kill you, it's surrender. It's not failure. It's surrender and move forward, and it's a beautiful thing. We've seen each other at our worst, me and Dougie, that we've both been in active addiction together, and we've both been clean together, and we've seen each other through those times. And it's a two-way street between me and him. Like, it's not like I save him or he saves me. It's like a two-way thing. And that's the beauty of recovery in a way, is that happens between people, but he's never talked about it in a public space, because he had the same experience as me in the beginnings. Whenever he did, he regretted it, or it caused harm to people he loved, or, he felt ashamed of that stuff. So he kept it very hidden. And I think that's part of the problem, is the shame and stigma around addiction causes more shame and stigma around addiction. Shame fades when you show it to the light, and I really feel that really strongly. I've only experienced nothing but remarkable breakthroughs when I've kind of been open and honest. And Dougie was so open and honest, and said things in a way that I could never communicate. He's just got a way of talking which is so innocent but poetic, in the most raw form of poetry. Like, he's just a really amazing guy, and he'll say things that people really resonate with and people get a lot from. And there's I'm always about what's an actionable tool, because like I found that with some therapy sessions I go to at the beginning, I'm talking, what am I getting from this? What can I do now? How can I stop using? What can I do? Like, I don't want to get on my knees and pray every 5 minutes. What do I do now? I really want to take drugs. I really want to do this. And I think that's, and it's really, or I just want to stop feeling the way I feel. How can I change my repetitive thought patterns? How can I stop ruminating on this thought? And there are actionable tools for that. There are things that work for people. They might not work for you, but they might. Maybe give them a go. If they don't work, try something else. And there's lots of things out there. And I think that's what from the Dougie episode we get some actionable tools. We get some things that he does, things that he learned in therapy and rehab and things like that, and things that he still does now. And I learned loads from it, so I'm sure everyone else will.
There's so many celebrity-fronted documentaries out there and stuff, which are, you never really get under the skin of a subject. They're all slightly sugar-coated. Yeah. But this one was brutal in its honesty. Yeah. Was it difficult sort of putting some of that information out there in the public domain?
To grasp?
Well, I think for me, I made a decision that I really wanted to, because I was like, everything that's been beneficial in my life has come from someone telling me something and me resonating or me understanding myself a little bit more through them, and that being a two-way street. Like I talk to other people about my story and they get something from that, and I get something from remembering that and reminding myself who I am or who I could be, if I slip, so it's a two-way street. And I for years I kind of shied away from that, because every time I did it, every time I went near that or talked about it, it kind of became some big scandalous headline that was taken out of proportion. I was like, it became almost glamorizing. And that's one thing I didn't want to do with the doc. I was like, it can't be. And luckily 2-4 were amazing. I had to talk Emma into being in it. She really did.
I was going to ask you how much convincing it sort of took.
It took quite a lot. Yeah. Quite a lot. She really wasn't really up for it. No, she wasn't up for it. She loved that I was doing it, and she knows how passionate I am about it and how much I spend a lot of my life researching and looking into this. So she was really excited that I was doing something with all that kind of energy, and she just wanted it to be my thing. And I said, but in the end, I kind of had to sit down with her and I was like, your part in this is so integral that I think that you're gonna say things that people will really understand what that is a lot more if you and which was difficult because we hadn't really talked about that stuff enough, so it was like, I want to bring you in, and also we're talking about some stuff that we haven't really talked about before, openly on camera, and that took a bit of a while, but then we I think the result was amazing, and I mean we learned a lot from it as a couple. We talked about things we'd never talked about, and we're dramatically stronger because of it. It kind of just shows that kind of talking and kind of opening up really does help.
That's really interesting that you are stronger. You sort of got that impression from watching it. Actually, you could almost see the sort of the weariness etched on her face when we're going through this process. Yeah. And I thought that first opening scene where she finds her diary in the drawer, and it details some of your drinking. I mean, that was extraordinarily powerful.
I've never seen that either, and that was like a snapshot of a few days, so that was years long, that diary, it's just like, and I mean, she told me that she wrote that, but I'd never thought about it since or never seen it. And I think that was a really powerful moment to kind of like, to show that it's not, because she'd said once that she kind of felt like people were thinking, oh, he's just a wreckhead pop star. She said it's so much more than that, and I think that really kind of shined a light on that, of what that is to live with, what that is to love somebody and see them kind of destroying themselves and everything. It's kind of I think that was a really, and to put it at the top of the film was a really good move. I think to kind of just brought it straight in. I did a lot of therapy like years ago because I just wanted to stop using drugs, and everything was just about stopping drinking, stopping using drugs. All therapy was just me apologizing for taking drugs and trying not to, just trying to stay clean, and I did lots of sessions where I just lied and told the therapist what I thought they wanted me to say, because I just wanted to get a pat on the back and told I wasn't going to use today. I could go home safe. That's why I treated it like for a long time.
There was that great line in the documentary about how you were almost like blagging your way through it all, which I thought was very
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I was paying to lie to people, for no benefit really, but I felt like I was getting something from it because I felt like they thought I was doing good and I could walk away happy, but in fact I wasn't ever getting to the root of the problem. And I've done a lot of that in therapy, but I've done a lot of that on my own, like I write loads of stuff down, like I write all the time, and I find that's really helpful for me because I can actually look at it then and I can be really brutally honest and truthful and say, this is this, what is that? And then when you see it, you're like, oh, that's no longer the truth. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of like, I have these ways of thinking about it. I'm like, when something's happening, when I'm triggered or when I'm acting a certain way, I can now take a little bit of a step back and go, is that fact or is that a thought? And it's normally a thought. And I'm like, right, where's that thought come from? I can kind of trace that back, which is a bit laborious and boring. And I wish I could just go, oh, it's just silly, don't worry about it. But I can't. I can hold on to these things and they can escalate. I need to work backwards, yeah.
What are those triggers now? Can you identify what they are?
I have a real kind of rejection issue. Like that's kind of something that keeps coming up for me. Like, anytime I feel kind of like bullied or rejected or picked on, that can really, and it can be something which is not meant to be that. Like, I'm not really getting bullied or picked on, but I can take it that way, and it can trigger me in a way that maybe will act like an absolute dick for days, and then I have to kind of go, what is that? Right, okay, that's because I felt less than, I felt bullied, I felt, ashamed, of being me.
I wasn't expecting you to say that.
Really?
Where do these? What situations are you in? Can you give me an example as to?
I think it's any time I'm not listened to. Like I'm not confrontational. Which is something which I used to be, but I used to be quite aggressively confrontational. But only because I wanted my point to be right, and I'd fight the wrong point for no reason. But whereas now, it's if I don't feel, I can't really think of an example right now, but if I feel, it's all from low self-worth, I think, and if I feel that, I don't like to feel that anymore. And I've had that voice for a long time, kind of ruining everything for me. So I'm not fond of that anymore. And whenever I do, I react badly to it, and I can spiral. So I kind of very quickly have to check myself. I always thought with therapy I wouldn't know what to say. What do they want from me? What do I have to say? Am I bad enough? Is my story worthy enough? All this kind of stuff that I'd worry about with therapy. Or I'd be like, no one wants to listen to me bore them about my poor life, whatever that is. I'm like, get over yourself. When actually it's the opposite of that. Like, it's just talking with somebody and finding the right relationship with somebody. That's what it is. It's about finding someone who you feel comfortable with. And that doesn't happen instantly. It can take a few sessions and can take a little while, but you'll get somewhere, and you'll get somewhere you didn't expect to. And before you know it, you're talking about things that actually really affect you. And you can find a new way of looking at them, which is what I've done, is I found different ways of these things which are secrets which I keep. I remember when I first went to rehab, and people were talking openly in a circle of and we had a men's group, and we sat down as men, and they were talking openly about feelings and what they felt and like how they reacted to things. I was like, whoa, don't you don't say this out loud, they're gonna fuck you up. Like, I was like, if I'd say it, they're gonna take me away. When actually, no, it's like everyone goes through this stuff. Like most men feel these things, but we have ways of, I don't know, I think it's kind of like this, I describe it as a scaffolding we build up around ourselves, from a very young age, like boys don't cry, can't carry on, man up, all this kind of stuff that we kind of build up on ourselves that we pretend is us, and it kind of holds us up. And when you start peeling those things away, you kind of get to the essence of the way you feel in a way. And that's what I try to do. you know, and I still struggle with it. I still try to do that stuff on a daily basis, but sometimes it doesn't work. You know, sometimes I react differently, you know, but that's just life. But I'm very quick to notice it. And I'm very quick to say sorry.